I'm Batman. Batman Returns. Batman Forever.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it. I hate this channel.
Hey there, I'm Social Injustice Warrior Infuso, and today I'm here to lose all of my credibility. Aw, who am I kidding? I never really had any to begin with. Today I'm here to discuss one of the most overlooked and underrated Batman movies of all time, Batman Forever. And if you've already unsubscribed, just hear me out, and then wait till the end of the video, and then do that. And then go do that. Now I can understand why this movie has some of the hatred it does, but I assure you, there's a lot being overlooked here. Before I get any further, I want to make it clear that this isn't one of my typical scene-by-scene reviews.
That comes later.
Today, instead, we're going to explore just why this movie is so hated, and why I think it's somewhat unfounded. Now typically, if you ask any Batman fan, they'll tell you that the Joel Schumacher Batman films are by far the worst. They're campy, cartoony, and just overall unlikable. And while both Batman Forever and Batman and Robin up the cartoon factor significantly from Tim Burton's dark and gothic Batman and Batman Returns, it wasn't until Batman and Robin that the franchise became so unlikable. At least from my point of view. Now while the movie is flawed, I don't really see it as the giant steaming turd a lot of fans and just casual moviegoers alike see this as. For me, this movie's kinda more like a diamond in the rough. There's definitely some elements to it that work, and a lot more that pay tribute to the original source material, maybe even more than the Tim Burton films. And what better way to start than with the characters? A common complaint about this movie is that the villains in it, Two-Face and the Riddler, don't act anything like their comic book counterparts, and instead perform much more like cheap Joker knockoffs. Let me start by saying that a prehistoric Tommy Lee Jones does seem like the perfect fit for a character like Harvey Dent, or even Two-Face. He has that commanding, assertive presence that you'd imagine Gotham's leading district attorney would have. And if comic book movies back then were as taken as seriously as they are today, there's no doubt in my mind that this would have been at the top of his resume. Yes, he's a little too laughy and gleeful, which, let's be honest, is actually a little bit pleasant to see coming from Tommy Lee Jones considering this is his face most of the time. He somehow both overutilizes and underutilizes his whole doing things in twos gimmick. He's all over the place.
The second bank of Gotham on the
second anniversary of the day I captured him.
He'll slaughter them without thinking twice.
And in most of his scenes, it's hard to pay attention to anything else because he's too busy eating up all of the scenery.
I hope you made extra.
Let's start this party with a bang! Blast it!
Open sesame.
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham! Yes, oh, happy day! Farewell forever to that pointy-eared night rat!
However, when he isn't acting like Cesar Romero reincarnated, there's definitely moments of brilliance while he's in the role. His introduction in the movie being a highlight of this performance.
Are you gonna kill me? Maybe, maybe not. You can say we're of two minds on the subject. You're a gambling man. What say we flip for it? The random toss. The only true justice.
What the hell do you want, Harvey?
One, Mr. Mayor. One simple thing. Batman, bruised, broken, bleeding, in a word, dead! The Bat's stubborn refusal to expire
It's driving us insane!
Babies starve, politicians grow fat, holy men are martyred, and junkies grow legion. Why?
Who do we have before us? Gotham's finest. Surely one of you knows who Batman is.
Hell, odds are one of you pasty-faced twits is Batman!
You have broken into our hideout. You have violated the sanctity of our lair. For this, we should crush your bones into powder.
Luck! Blind, stupid, simple, doodah, clueless!
position. Therefore, heads, we accept, and tails, we blow your damn head off.
And on top of all that, I'm sorry, tell me he doesn't have a look. I remember being a kid and seeing all these promotional pictures on all of the merchandise out there at the time, and I was so psyched to see this movie. I made my parents buy me everything Two-Face related. I had the McDonald's glasses, the action figure, everything. Can't think of anything else, but I had it. This was, and to some degree still is, one of my favorite interpretations of the character visually. The Riddler also similarly had an interesting aesthetic, and the fact that one of my all-time favorite actors at the time was playing him was pretty exciting, and also a leading factor as to why I wanted to see this. I loved The Mask, I loved Ace Ventura, and I loved Batman, so this was just the perfect match of all things awesome at the time. And the people who claim that Jim Carrey played as a second-rate Joker here clearly either never saw the 1960s Batman show, or they just didn't get the reference. Everything about Jim Carrey's Riddler, from his attires to the performance itself, was a tribute of sorts to Frank Gorshin's time as that character, back in the original Batman TV show. Just watch some of their scenes side by side. It's undeniable that that's what he was going for.
It's too delicious. I even gave you a tip-off.
100,220, 100 and... I lost count!
It couldn't be more beautiful. Whoever heard of a bat caught in the spider's web?
Go ahead. You can say it. You're a genius.
I think when looking back at his time as the character with that knowledge, it's hard to outright say Carrey failed in this persona, because he plays the part like only one other man could. Now in hindsight, would I prefer the super intelligent, cunning, and at times a little scary green clue master? Of course I would. But for the adaptation of the character that this film went for, it's a really solid performance. Plus, Jim's still at the height of his comedic prowess during this time period, which gives the film some of its more interesting moments.
Edward Nigma, come on down! You're the next contestant on Brain Drain! Judges?
I'm sorry, your answer must be in the form of a question, but thank you for playing.
Why? Oh, why? Just can't believe it. I'm sucking up your IQ, vacuuming the cortex, feeding off your brain. I'm coming, my sweet.
Fully interactive holographs. Only a high-frequency carrier wave beamed direct. If you can introduce images into the mind, what prevents you from...
Ooh, nice form, but a little rough on the landing. He may have to settle for the bronze.
Like the jacket? It keeps me safe when I'm jogging at night.
I'm reporting you to the FCC, the Human Experimentation Board, the AMI, and the police.
He was like my father, my brother, cousin that visits all the time. I found this in my cubicle. You'll find the handwriting matches his exactly, as does sentence structure and spelling. Batman, you say? Coming for you?
I'm counting on it!
Robin's introduced for the first time in the series, and yeah, I'll admit his age is kind of strange. I mean, he looks like he's 20 here, but he's worried about some charity organization trying to take him in?
Good of you to take him in. He hasn't anyone now. We've had him filling out papers all day.
I figured telling that cop I'd stay here for a while saved me a truckload of social service interviews and charities.
You're a grown-ass man, Chris O'Donnell. No one's gonna adopt you. Though I do feel a little bit more comfortable about seeing a 20-year-old fistfight thugs on the streets rather than an 8 or 9-year-old kid. I mean, I don't know. That just always kind of broke the suspension of disbelief for me. You know, like, this kid's out there beating up street thugs, and then what? You gonna give him a fucking juice box? Here, he's still young enough to be vulnerable, and still old enough to believably kick someone's ass. Taking out the confusing age issue, I think that Chris O'Donnell did a pretty damn good job, all things considered. He's moody, he's angsty, but never enough to become completely annoying. That's reserved for the sequel. He's believable as a young, cocky Dick Grayson. See what I did there? See, do you notice? Cocky Dick? Cocky Dick. Maybe I'm about as mature as an 8 or 9-year-old.
Now go get me a juice box.
And I think he built up a fair amount of goodwill with audiences.
Welcome, Master Grayson. I'm Alfred.
How you doing now?
Who the hell are you?
I'm Batman. Hey, so I forgot my suit, all right?
Nice bike.
Hang out at a lot of biker bars, Bruce. Going for a little ride on my love machine, baby.
Killing Two-Face won't take the pain away. It'll make it worse.
Experiment experiments, right, Bruce?
What the hell did you think you were doing?
You got a real gratitude problem, you know that, Bruce?
All for the next movie to completely castrate him. Whereas this movie betrays Robin as a boy slowly maturing into a man, the following film betrays him as a whiny, arrogant, unlikable man-child.
You just can't stand that maybe she wanted me instead of you. It's Batman and Robin, not Robin and Batman. And I'm sick of it.
Shut up!
Val Kilmer is by far the most underrated Batman of all time. He's very often forgotten in the conversation of live-action Batman, probably because this was his first and only outing with bat ears. And the next movie followed up by bringing in George Clooney.
This is why Superman works alone.
Does he know what movie he's in? You're not supposed to be happy. You're Batman. Why are you smiling? Who hired this guy? And why? But both as Batman and Bruce Wayne, Val Kilmer has a very confident, all-knowing presence that I'd like to think is closer to the original source than any other Batman put to film before or even after him.
My opinion is letter writer is a total wacko.
Wacko. Is that a technical term?
Black rubber.
Try fireman, less to take off.
And wherever Batman goes, I'm gonna be right beside him. I mean, how are you gonna stop me?
I can stop you. Someone were to fix him up, they could keep one as a fee. Anyway, have a nice trip.
Patient may suffer from obsessional syndrome with potential homicidal tendencies.
So, what you're saying is, this guy's a total wacko.
I have a riddle for you.
I see without seeing. To me, darkness is as clear as daylight. What am I? You're trying to get under my cape, Doctor?
Hello, Edward. Congratulations. Great party. Nice suit.
Aren't you forgetting something, Harvey? Your coin.
Please! You're as blind as a bat!
Exactly. You see, I'm both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Not because I have to be. Now, because I choose to be.
What is it you really came here for?
Yikes. Time's up.
I had hope for Ben Affleck, but he just doesn't add up. Not for any fault of his own, he does a great job, but the writing completely changes his character, and what could have been a great performance is now only an okay one at best. Despite how self-assured he is in his actions, Val Kilmer, not Ben Affleck, he still struggles internally with his parents' death and constantly subconsciously blaming himself for those he couldn't save.
I killed them.
What did you say?
You killed them.
No, you said I killed him.
I don't remember a lot of what happened, but what I do comes to me in my dreams. So you're willing to take a life, but your pain doesn't die with Harvey, it grows. So you run out into the night to find another face. My dreams are coming to me when I'm awake now.
Bruce, you're describing repressed memories. Your memories are trying to break through. Don't fight them.
Val betrays the duality of the character perfectly, and you just get a good feeling that he had this greater understanding of who Batman was and what it was that made him tick. Hell, even Batman co-creator Bob Kane stated that Val Kilmer's performance was closest to his vision of the character. And if you asked me what the perfect betrayal of Batman was, I'd say Kevin Conroy, because he's Kevin Conroy. I mean, come on. You're not gonna get better than that. That's Batman. Put it on his tombstone when he goes out. He is Batman. But if you ask me what the perfect live-action betrayal of Batman was, I'd redirect you to this movie. Nicole Kidman plays Chase Meridian, who is Bruce's therapist and Batman's love interest. And you know what? She's actually pretty interesting. Unlike the majority of love interests in superhero movies at the time, she seems to be a well-thought-out character, who's an actual asset to Bruce and his mental stability. I mean, I'm not claiming that this would have won any awards, but you can buy the relationship, and she actually feels somewhat important to the story. She's intelligent, sexy, ambitious.
I'm flattered. Not every girl makes a superhero's night table. Well, I wish I could say that my interest in you was purely professional.
Trauma powerful enough to create an alternate personality leaves the victim.
In a world where normal rules of right and wrong no longer apply.
Exactly.
Like you. His coin. It's his Achilles heel. It can be exploited.
You have a thing for bats?
Oh, that's a Rorschach, an ink blot. People see what they want. I think the question would be, do you have a thing for bats? Pity I can't see behind the mask. I'll bring the wine. You bring your scarred psyche. My place. Midnight.
You know, until the third act comes around and she predictably falls into the damsel in distress category. But it's okay, because so does Robin, so no big deal.
Batman will come for me.
Not to mention Michael Gow, whatever his last name is. Michael reprises his role as Alfred, and that's really a godsend. I mean, I personally prefer my Alfreds as deadpan sarcastic intellects, but Mike just seems like the nicest old man in the world, and it's incredibly wholesome.
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through.
Master Bruce, how are you, young man? Go to her. Tell her how you feel. Your father was right. You are a hero, I can tell.
And you are encouraging him.
Young men with a mind for revenge need little encouragement. They need guidance. Broken wings mend in time. One day, Robin will fly again.
Emergency, Alfred.
Oh, sir. I could be fired for this, sir. Perhaps they'll have me back at Buckingham Palace.
Oh yeah, and Commissioner Gordon's back. And still completely pointless. Oh, good. Good. Because Lord knows we can make this movie without Michael Keaton and Tim Burton, but whew, if we didn't get that Commissioner Gordon back, I don't know what we would do. The tone. A lot of people who watched this movie attacked it for its tone, and again, I feel like it just kind of gets lumped in with Batman and Robin. It's too different from Tim Burton's Batman, you know. That one was perfect. The guy who put bombs on people's chests and slept upside down. Like, what was that? What? And am I supposed to not be upset? Because I am. And as much as I do love those Tim Burton movies, Tim Burton took a bunch of characters he knew nothing about and made his own story out of it. It hardly has anything to do with the Batman comics. And really, if you want to look at it, it's more of just an Elseworld story, if anything. I mean, think about it. In his story, Batman lives like a bat, the Penguin was raised by penguins, and Catwoman is a cat. And because she's a cat, she has 9 lives. Despite, you know, cats still only having 1. Don't try to test that out. I already got you covered. Didn't end well. You ain't coming back. The tone isn't entirely consistent to the first 2 Batman movies out at the time, but it does at least try to emulate it in certain aspects. You know, until the sequel comes around and just completely throws that out the window. How do you make a live-action movie that is more of a cartoon than the actual cartoon show out at the time? How do you do it? Why do you do it? Who allowed you to do it? I want names.
Chill.
The tone certainly isn't as dark and brooding as Batman Returns, which in my opinion is the pitch-perfect tone for a Batman-related project. But the studios did bring Joel in to lighten things up. So while the pitch of everything here is definitely a detour from the gothic ambience of the first films, it's not an entire 180 in direction. Gotham is even stylized in a bizarre amalgamation of Tim Burton's vision for the city in the first 2 installments of the series, and Joel Schumacher's later vision for that same city in the movie's follow-up. And here, I actually think it's a good combination. It goes to shit later, but here it's pretty good. As a matter of fact, these movies are so different that as a child, I never actually knew that Batman Forever was a sequel to Batman Returns. I thought it was an entirely different continuity. And that's even with the movie giving me subtle hints. Like having these 2 actors return, or having Dr. Meridian say this.
You like strong women. I've done my homework. Or do I need skin-tight vinyl and a whip?
I didn't get it. In conclusion, I think Batman Forever is a solid Batman flick, but I can completely understand why people would be disappointed if they were going into it thinking that they were going to see another Tim Burton movie. It definitely doesn't work as a sequel, but as its own thing, I think it's pretty damn good. It gives you characters you care about, performances closer to the source than other previous incarnations, and is just overall fun to watch. It's not a perfect movie, or even a perfect Batman movie for that matter, but it is at the very least a competent one. And a movie that I think should be talked about a little bit more than it is today. And if you disagree, which I'm sure a lot of you do, feel free to tell me in the comment section. I mean, if you agree with me, you can do that too. You will do whatever you... Go crazy. Do what you want. I'm not judging.
I'm the clown prince of crime, and that was the prince of personality, the Infuso. Or so he says. So if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the man on Twitter, because it's not stalking if it's on the internet after all. Join the fun by joining the Discord. If for some strange reason you want to show support, and I don't know why you would, and if you have $1 to spare, head over to the SIJW's Patreon, where you can request videos, get exclusive content, and early access to scheduled videos. Or head to his PayPal, where you can buy the shirts. Oh, aren't those lovely? And just remember, if you're not tuning in, you're missing out. Yeah.